Hi, we're camped at Foster Falls Campgrounds over in South Cumberland State Park. It's probably the closest big city in Tennessee to it is Chattanooga, about 50 miles away. We're in the Tracy City, Monteagle area. So we just got here earlier today, having quite a few difficulties already. So hopefully the rest of the weekend picks up some. But first got here, there was somebody else already camped in our reserved campsite, so we had to call the rangers and have them settle that part out. And so now we're here. We got camp set up fairly well. A lot of difficulties with our tent this time. It's been probably a good 3-4 weeks since we've had any real to speak of rain, and the ground is pretty solid. So driving tent stakes in have really folded over, a couple of them, and I got a few stuck in the ground already with this crush and run type of ground that they're in. So the tent and the canopies here are not as staked down as they should be. But that's okay. It's not going to rain any this weekend either. So there's a fire ban, so there won't be any campfire for us, and it's questionable whether charcoal is allowed or not, so we're going to kind of keep that on the low. Let's see what else is there. That's a kind of a disappointment. We're not overly thrilled with the area itself. I guess the bathhouse and so has a lot to be desired, and I think that's kind of it at the moment. So we're just kind of here fixing to get our day started. I'm going to start working on dinner here shortly. Maybe get a chance to go out to the one of the overlooks. Oh yes, the rangers also told us that the 3 major falls that we wanted to see aren't really flowing. So looks like when we get to do our hikes later on, we'll get to see some cliffs instead. So anyhow, not to sound like a Debbie Downer or anything, but that's just kind of where we're at right now. I'm going to spin the camera around and show you the campgrounds, because right now I think the campground still looks pretty nice. Okay. Ooh, I think I did that fairly smoothly. So there's very few people here. It's not a bad looking little campgrounds. There's not many spots. I think there's maybe 20. Up there off to the left is the bathhouse, and I guess some neighbors. And here's our little setup. Brought a second canopy this time and set up my kitchen better this time. And the door area on the tent I can't get staked down, as well as tore one of the tie outs off of here, breaking into this rock-like ground over here. So that's that for us so far, and a little bit of some fall colors going on. Alright, enough babbling. Okay, we're on a little pathway here that's coming out of the campgrounds. I just walked down it a second ago, just to see where it went really, but it's goes straight to the overlook, so we're gonna head down it real quick. I'll show you the falls as it is today. So coming up on the overlook to the falls. And Right over here is, well, where the falls should be. Like I said, it's been pretty dry. It's been a good 3 or 4 weeks since it's rained. Kind of a pretty view just the same. Alright, I guess we're going to head back in to start dinner. Morning. It's a pretty decent night, I guess. Slept pretty well. Fairly quiet. Still pretty quiet this morning. I guess it's a little bit after 6:30. Not many people stirring around yet. A couple squirrels and some crows over here. They're kind of going back and forth with each other. Got a pot of coffee going. Not sure what today we're going to do. There's a couple hikes around the Foster Falls area back behind us. Being that that's dry, I'm not real sure if we want to do that now or not. We talked about going up towards the Grundy Lakes area and hiking around there and kind of scoping out the lakes, see what they look like, maybe for a future trip, and bringing the kayaks. And we've also talked about, being that it's Friday, probably the least of the amount of people day that we're going to have this weekend. Talked about going up to the Savage Gulf area and maybe doing Stone Door and some of that area up there. So we're still a little undecided. Got plenty of time because we've just now got a pot of coffee going, so we still got breakfast to come up with. But, looks like it's going to be a pretty day. Probably another like yesterday. Upper 80s, partly cloudy, humid. Definitely nothing like end of September, early October weather. Hi, it's a Saturday afternoon. It's day 3 of our South Cumberland Foster Falls Campground trip. It's probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're finished up for our day today, and I'm going to try to remember all this. I wanted to check in yesterday, but the campground, by the time we came back from our events, was really packed. There was a lot of background noises, more than you're going to hear in the background now, and it was just too busy. I didn't. I have a hard enough time doing video as it is, and to have all that distraction just wasn't going to work. So I didn't check in at all yesterday like I originally wanted to. So yesterday morning we set out. We did the Greeter Loop, or Greeter Falls Loop, Greeter Day Loop. I'm not sure exactly what the full name is now. That was pretty neat. It was a little unexpected. As dry as it's been, we thought we were pretty much that the falls are going to be dried up, and that they were for the most part. We did a little spur hike at the beginning from the Greeter parking lot to a place. I want to think it was called Blue Hole. That was pretty neat. It was just like a local swimming hole back in the day. It too is fairly dried up. There's a little bit of creek left, but not anything to speak of. But it was pretty interesting. It turned out to be a really interesting hike afterwards, and then we stumbled into like an old basement foundation to a home place that dates back late 18 and early 1900s. So when we came back, we set up there and did our trail lunch, which was one of the little backpacking meals that I made once before too. It's I think I videoed that one a while back ago. With Cherokee National Forest is where you're going to find it. It's a salsa, rice and beans backpacking meal. But that so we made that again for this trip, and that came out really well.
Although if there's more stuff you want to do at Stone Door, we know it from that.
Had a good time doing all that. After that, we drove out further to the Savage Gulf area, which is about 50 miles or so north and west of where we're at now. This park is weird. Most of the state parks that I'm familiar with around here is just one property. This one, as near as I can tell now, is about 5, maybe 6 pieces of property, all managed by the state. So it's spread out 4 counties and several different pieces of property. It's complicated. But anyhow, we went out to the Savage Gulf area. We didn't. And that probably is the most popular of this park and the most documented. But we were only in a very small corner of it. So we went up and did the Stone Door part of that. It wasn't so much. Okay, sorry about that. Memory card filled up. I don't guess I deleted some of the earlier video from it. So yesterday afternoon we drove out to the Stone Door section, and we went out to see that. That was pretty neat. It was about a mile, I guess, from the ranger station visitor area. More of a walking path than a hiking trail or anything. So didn't really document getting out to it in any way. A couple of overlooks that we had seen getting out to the Stone Door, and then the Stone Door itself, which was quite neat. It's reminded me a lot of Maud's Crack out at Big South Fork, with the exception of you could see more of the sky over your head as you're going through the Stone Door, where you can't at Maud's Crack. It's more like you're going through a cave. But otherwise, it kind of reminded me of that. A lot steeper. I think the guidebook says that it's hundreds of steps, and it was at least 100 steps. I don't know how many steps it was. I didn't count it, but so that was pretty neat. And then the ledge, getting out on the ledge and looking out into the gorge below, that was pretty cool. So we had a real good time yesterday, minus coming back to the campgrounds and, like I said, being overrun. It was just a sea of humanity. Little kids on their bicycles, up and down the streets. Other ones bouncing balls up and down. People, it wasn't a real pleasant camping experience. It was just Anyhow, it's not as bad today, I don't think, or at least I hope it's not. Um, Today after breakfast, which was just a simple sausage and fried eggs, and hash browns that I did on the griddle, we're acknowledging the no burn pretty well, but some of the neighbors aren't doing. They've had 2 or 3 raging campfires over the last couple of days being here. But anyways, this morning we went out we did the Grundy Day Loop, and that was that could have been fun. There's a lot of pretty things, and it was a nice hike, but it too was. We got there about 9 o'clock, and the parking lot was already full. I think we took the last parking spot in the regular parking area. So I felt rushed before I ever got out of the car, and then there was just too many people on the trail to try to document that. So I was able to sneak a couple videos in along the way, just of a segment, but not document the hike in any way. But it was neat. We came down a nice rock step area right into a really big rock house, and then there was this huge hemlock tree, which according to the guidebooks again say it's a 400-year-old tree, which for us here in the eastern states, seeing a tree that old is pretty impressive, because just about every bit of the forest around here have been logged out at least once, sometimes twice. So to see a tree that old was pretty cool. That was really neat. The hike was, although a 2-mile loop, it was mostly tree roots and rocks, the whole path. So it was a little slow moving, and then again there was a lot of people, so we kept dodging off to the side to let people get ahead of us and let some of the noises go on ahead. What else was on that trail that was really neat? There was a couple small waterfalls. One, Sycamore Falls, was really neat. That's where a lot of the people who were ahead of us wound up going, and they were all swimming down below that. But it was, for as dry as it's been, and all the other waterfalls not flowing, just to see that was pretty cool. So there's a little bit of waterfall there. Just before that, we stumbled into a really large rock formation called the Chimney. I don't know if it's Chimney Rocks as in plural or just Chimney Rock, but that was pretty cool. And then finished out the loop. Just at the end of it all, there was just the remains of where the CCC camp was for this area, and there's still some things there, some concrete foundations to different buildings, and mostly anything that was concrete. But it looks like they went through, the state did, and put up quite a few little information kiosks to tell you what you've seen along the way, and that was kind of cool. It was different. But we went out to Grundy Lakes, and found a little picnic table along the lakeside there, and cooked up our lunch. So that wasn't too bad. And then we found some of the old coke ovens from the mid-1800s, some along the roadside and then some on the backside of the lake. And kind of tooled around and explored them a little bit. So that was pretty much our day, both yesterday and today, to this point. Tonight's dinner probably isn't going to get documented either. It was one I was hoping to video, but I think it still might be a lot of distractions in the neighborhood for me to comfortably do that. So I'll try to do it at some other time. It was a pork chop bake with apples, oranges, and rice, and something else I can't think of right now. And I don't know what's in store for tomorrow yet. We're going to still try to figure that out. So, yeah, so the other day when we were up here at the Foster Falls Overlook, um, my wife and I, well, we came back. I showed it to her, and I left the camera behind, but we found a few more pretty cool observation places. So this morning, while it's quiet, because it sure hasn't been last night, thought I'd take a small walk and show you some of these things. So this here is just from almost the same overlook point as the last time. And then we're going to head down this little trail here, which is about the end terminus of the Fiery Gizzard Trail. That one I think I'd like to do sometime, but judging by what I've seen this weekend, probably be a middle January 19-degree high Wednesday before I come back out here. But anyhow, we'll show you some of the things from over this way. Stand by. Wander before the Girl Scout troop overruns us. Some of our fall colors are starting to show, just barely, but starting to.
I would like to go down there.
Yeah. See, and just over here to the right is where the waterfall should be. I'm going to head down that little trail just a second, Rufy. Oh, there is, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the creek bottom right there. And then the ledge. And you should be able to see the pool down below. And right into the gorge.
What's good?
Well, it's mid-afternoon Sunday. We've got just this evening, and we're heading back home tomorrow morning. But we finally quieted down here in the campgrounds. We are currently the only ones here, which is just kind of nice, really. We've I see people by the thousands on a daily basis in my world. So a lot of the things that I come camping or come out to nature to escape, I just didn't get to escape from this time. Trying to make up my mind if I've enjoyed myself this trip or not. I'm still up in the air. I've seen some pretty cool things. The hikes that we did, all of them, including the dry waterfalls, were pretty impressive. A lot of dramatic scenery, but at the same time, there's a lot of humanity. A lot of, well, just a lot of the things that I try to escape. So right now, I am enjoying just sitting here. I'm on the opposite end of the campgrounds from where we're camped at. The only electrical outlet I could find was in the bathhouse, and I'm letting the laptop recharge up for after the couple days of downloading video footage and pictures and stuff to it, GPS trackings and such. So I'm letting that charge up, but in the meantime I'm just sitting here in a quiet little spot, and I've been watching quite a few squirrels play around. That's been pretty enjoyable. This morning I didn't video it. So some of the mood when we first set out wasn't all that good, and at the same time the campgrounds is full of a lot of noises too. So it I just didn't video this segment. Hold on a second. There's a car coming, so I'm going to turn the camera off. Yeah, drive by. Yeah. So this morning, like I said, we set out from camp. We turned part of the Fiery Gizzard Trail, and then connected it to some of the rock climbers' access points and trails to about a 2.5 mile loop, I'm guessing it was. It took us a little over 2.5 hours to do, so that sounds probably about right. It was quite an enjoyable hike, though. Really, we started off going out across that stone ledge that I recorded earlier. Crossed a nice little suspension bridge, which should have been crossing the creek, but that's dried up. And then went out across the top of the gorge on the other side, and that was pretty cool. We then, where the whole hike got really interesting, though, was we dropped down on Climbers Access number 2, I think was the way the trail was marked, and it takes you down the rock face down into the side of the cliff, and then it parallels that, and that was pretty enjoyable. I was able to take quite a few still pictures, but I didn't bring the video camera with me, so like I said, the mood wasn't good when we first set out. So that was pretty cool. I'll see if I can make a little slideshow and put that along. But we encountered a few rock climbers along the way. 75% of them were pretty decent people. There was one group that well, they weren't the friendliest of people. Kind of mocked us as we passed by, and as our backs were to them and we're heading back out, they're still mocking us. Glad that us old people didn't ask them to teach us how to rock climb. So yeah, I guess you get that kind of attitude out of people, which is one of the reasons why I try to escape them. I'm not real big on humanity. And it's a weird weekend we've had here. So, but the hike was pretty cool. That was nice. We've been on some pretty good hikes. The one from yesterday, the Tracy City it was right outside of Tracy City. I'm sorry. What the hell was the name of it? Grundy Loop. I'm sorry. That was a really beautiful hike. It had a lot of potential to be one of my favorites. Just encountered too many people along the way. But for a small little half a day hike, that was in right settings. Could have been a really good one. Didn't do a lot of filming of any kind last night. We've eaten good this whole trip. Most of my meals were successful, which, if you know me, that's a big deal for me. It's always some of my first jobs in my working career were restaurant based, and I've always enjoyed cooking. So as I've gotten older, I had a fantasy too late in life that I think being a camp cook would have been a really fun, self-rewarding thing to have gotten into, but it was too late in my life with too many bills and debt to pursue that, really. I think maybe after I retire, it's something I can do during the fall months and just enjoy retirement after that. I don't know. But my meals came out really good. A couple that were some recipes handed down to me from Lorraine out at Royal Tyne Outfitters when I went out there a few years back ago. The Spanish hash browns was one. We did that for breakfast. That came out really good. The hamburger goulash we had last night. No, I'm sorry, the night before last. And that was one of her recipes. I liked it. My wife thought it was a little too tomatoey, and then reminded her of chili mac, which she didn't grow up with as a kid, so she wasn't a really big fan. But all in all, we ate. Like I said, we ate well. It's been there was a lot of expectation out of this trip that just I don't guess was met. I don't know how to explain it. The things we did, I think, were enjoyable, but everything else we've not enjoyed. Does that make sense? So I'm just going to continue rambling if you let me, and I don't want to do that either. I don't think I planned on filming tonight's meal, although it's quite enough where I could. It's just I wasn't prepared to. It's a chicken and rice with condensed soup baked in a Dutch oven, so it's I don't think I'm going to film that. But we might. We're talking about maybe trying to sneak over to the waterfall Overlook for a third time and see if we can't capture the sunset, and if so, I'll record that. And if not, then I might check in first thing in the morning, but there's not much to check in over. We're going to probably break half our camp tonight, and then once we wake up, it's a grab-and-go breakfast, granola bars and coffee, and finish breaking camp and heading out. So if I don't check back in tomorrow, then that's it for us for South Cumberland State Park. The last weekend in September 2019, and I thank you for watching, listening to some of my gripes, and well, hope to see you again.